Coming up on this edition of Special People, Special Issues, helping to heal the world, devastation hits and emergency medical supplies are needed to save lives. There's hope, there's help, there's Afya. Stay tuned. SPSI starts right now.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Welcome to this edition of Special People, Special Issues, the program that for the past 15 years has focused on the needs, concerns, and achievements of the differently abled. I'm Lawrence Seiler. On this edition, we'll focus on helping areas in crisis from disasters. We've witnessed tragedies on our shores in New Orleans and most recently in Haiti and Japan and other countries. Emergency medical supplies are desperately needed in these times. Afya answers the call with their global humanitarian service. With me to discuss this amazing organization is Danielle Butin and Sarah Schuyler of Afya. Welcome to SPSI. Thank you guys for joining me on this edition of Special People, Special Issues. What is the missions and goals of Afya?
The Afya Foundation is here to serve as a clearinghouse of unused supplies, such as those you see on the table, and large medical equipment for health centers and hospitals in Africa and Haiti primarily. We collect supplies from all over the country, and then people deliver to us their wish list. Supplies they need to build capacity that are really unique for every single health center abroad. We pack 40-foot sea freight containers with these supplies. We organize them per the request of the recipient, and they get shipped abroad.
Okay. Explain some of the medical supplies that you guys send over.
There's a huge range of supplies, everything from consumables, dressings that you would see here, sutures that you would see here, wheelchairs, operating room tables, dialysis machines. There is an opportunity to collect that is enormous in this country, and that occurs for a number of reasons. Number one, dialysis machines and operating room tables become available because we have amazing technology in this country. We have access to it in an ongoing manner. So instead of throwing away an older piece of equipment that's been updated and renewed, they donate it, which is a beautiful way to save lives abroad. That's one. Number two, if you had surgery, Larry, there would be a back table of supplies there in case you needed more supplies than what was anticipated. If Sarah follows you into surgery, all those supplies that were on the table for you need to be discarded because there's no guarantee that they're still sterile to be introduced to Sarah's surgery. So everything we see on this table now, for every surgery in this country potentially, is discarded because there's no guarantee that it can be reintroduced for someone else. The final is, if a tubing doesn't work as well as somebody wants it to, and a nurse or a physician requests a different kind of tubing, a hospital will get the new product in, but then something has to happen to the old product, and that's where Afya comes in. We collect it and then redistribute it abroad.
What's your job at Afya?
What's my job at Afya? Well, I serve in our warehouse. We have a 11,000 square foot warehouse in Yonkers, New York, and we have a multitude of individuals that come in and volunteer. So I'm kind of the in-between for the hospital, where we're picking it up, to the nurse or the clinician abroad that says this is what we need, do we have it in-house, and making sure that the volunteers are there sorting the correct items and making sure that the sutures are going with the sutures and the needles are going with the needles, and that it's not all a mishmash. Because if a physician requests something abroad and they say, oh, I need a 22 gauge needle with a 3 cc syringe, we need to make sure that that is delivered to the physician just like it would be delivered here. So I kind of serve as the intermediary between a lot of individuals and making sure that things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I also manage a program that we have in Haiti where we have rehabilitation workers in IDP camps, the settlements in Haiti, that are actually going out and assessing.
IDP camps, what exactly?
Internally displaced persons. So it's all the individuals who lost their homes and who are now living in tents, makeshift shelters underneath tarps. And all these individuals, we work in 2 camps, and all these individuals, there's 80,000 or so that we service. All these individuals have a multitude range of disabilities. So there may be a child with cerebral palsy, there may be an elder who's having trouble getting out of bed, there may be a woman who has an upper extremity amputation who can't figure out how to cook for her kids. So we have these rehab workers that actually go into these individuals' now homes, which are the tents and the shelters that they've created, and do assessments of the individuals, figure out the supplies that they need, and we make sure that the supplies we have in Afya that we're gathering from all over the place are then sent and then distributed to the individuals there, as well as the builders that we have, the adaptive builders, who are creating specific products for these individuals who need help.
Are there any other war-torn countries, or I should say devastated countries, that you have gone into besides Haiti, Japan, and others?
We don't do any, the only program that we have actually on the ground is in Haiti, but we've shipped to Haiti after the earthquake, Pakistan after the floods, Japan after the earthquake and tsunami,
We did Cape Verde after dengue fever.
After dengue fever.
So the core,
We're all over.
Exactly, and the core of Afya is really to build sustainable, long-standing interventions in specific parts of the world where we do our core business. We are in Haiti for the long run. We are in parts of Africa for the long run. But a crisis occurs, and when a crisis occurs, we know how to respond, we know how to collect supplies, we know how to ship. We are a well-oiled machine around this, so it makes perfect sense that we would respond.
Okay. What really started you to operate this organization? Why did you decide to start this organization? What was in your head? Like, I started SPSI.
Yeah.
How did you?
No, that's a really good question. I was running a huge division for a health insurance company before I started Afya, and left it, and was also teaching occupational therapy at Columbia at the time, and went on vacation to East Africa. All I've wanted my entire life is to see and smell the Serengeti, and got there. And I think the next path for my life was presented in that moment. And all these physicians and all these nurses literally said the same thing over and over again. I'm here on a mission. I'm here to do medical work. There are no supplies. I don't have a way to save a child with an IV, without IV fluids, without an IV starter kit. There's nothing for me to do here with my medical knowledge. And I thought, I can do something about this. I have amazing relationships from my old work with the biggest hospitals in New York, and I'm going to start an organization that recovers these supplies and then gets them out to other parts of the world. And Partners in Health gave us a member of their team to tutor me for a month to get this launched, and I worked with the Haiti team. And then it ends up, during a time of horrible crisis, we were able to respond in spades to the needs in Haiti because they taught us so well. And so the name is Afya because it means good health in Swahili, and it's a way of honoring the land that inspired the beginnings of this work.
Explain to me, when people first meet people with disabilities, especially in other countries, what are some of the misconceptions that people have against them?
We see it very often in Haiti. Before the earthquake, in terms of what a disabled person, when they were on the street or something, the majority of them were beggars, peasants. The only way that they thought that they could actually, provide for their family was to beg, or they were ostracized and sent, sent to, who knows? Honestly, there weren't a lot of areas.
They were hiding.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't
they
there.
Were hiding.
And unfortunately, because of the earthquake and the infrastructure there, a lot of the buildings collapsed. So there were a lot of crush injuries, there were a lot of orthopedic injuries, which are much more difficult to mask. So you have individuals with amputations, or who now have a lot of trouble using one side, or they're CVA patients, whatever the case may be, and they're out there. So when somebody meets them now, there's so many more, and they're so much more visible that, I mean, in my opinion, I think that they're they're being given a bigger opportunity. And especially in the IDP camps where we are, it's such an isolated community that we have our techs that are actually there to help these individuals, and they're not scared. They come out and say, I need help doing this, I need help there, I need a walker, I need a cane, I need a wheelchair, and they're not scared to go out and use it. So, I mean, I think
there's a shift.
Yeah.
And part of what we've done with the training that we've created in Haiti with training Haitians to become the workers for this effort is we've mentored for them and modeled for them watching us have conversations. So we've worked with children who have had a traumatic amputation following the earthquake, and we've watched people stare at them and then afterwards say to the kids, what do you want to say when people are looking at you? What are you thinking? What do you want to say? How do you want to respond when people are asking you lots of questions, so that we arm them with words, because this is so unfamiliar to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why? Now, the thing is, you mentioned to me off camera yesterday that in certain countries, okay, like in Vietnam and other countries, women were raped and other situations happened. You mentioned that you guys would provide
The commodes.
the commodes and the tents.
Yeah.
Why was that? Or why is that?
Okay, so one of the things that we do is we collect from the hospice community, from people who have lost someone they love. Mm-hmm. It is tragic, I think, to throw away the wheelchair, the commode, the tub bench, the medical supplies that sustain that person's life. Far better to honor it by donating it so that somebody else can live abroad and use these supplies. So what we found in Haiti was women who had an amputation following the earthquake or were really disabled to the point where they couldn't walk safely and well on their own. We tried to get as many of these little portable commodes in their tent as possible, because it is it's no secret. Women are being raped at the latrines at night in these tented cities, and the way to mitigate that, one intervention is to care for women who are now faced with physical challenges, is to give them a toilet in their tent so they never have to leave at night and put themselves at risk. So there's an opportunity to repurpose supplies and products in amazing ways. Another good example is we have kids coming to us all the time and saying, what can I collect? What could I do to support your work abroad? Mm-hmm. We saw midwives in Africa barefoot with sores on their feet, delivering women. Many of the women they were delivering were HIV positive. And we said to these midwives, where are your foot coverings? Where are your surgical boots? And they said, we don't have any. These are the only shoes we have are flip-flops. So kids across the country now are collecting rain boots for us because they serve the same purpose. Mm-hmm. So it's really about repurposing and looking at the collection of supplies that could have a long-standing impact differently used.
Okay. Before, now in terms of the medical supplies that are shipped over, okay, is there a process to turn around and, what's the word I'm looking for, inspect them to make sure that they're, because I know you guys don't accept certain items. You don't accept clothes, you don't accept food and other items. One, why is that? And two, do you really inspect your...
Absolutely. The majority, like all these supplies here, the majority of them are coming out of institutions, these types of supplies. So they're coming out of big hospital systems. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that we always have to make sure is that when a supply comes in, if it's supposed to be sterile, we need to make sure it is sterile. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when we ship our 40-foot sea freight containers, the average one weighs about 30,000 pounds. So in that 30,000 pounds of materials, if a customs official, when the ship arrives and the container's offloaded, opens up our container and opens up a box and sees one suture that's expired, all the 30,000 pounds of that container then is mute. And
they could
confiscate everything.
They could use that as a
for that one suture.
So or let's say needles that are broken or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So we make sure that when the supplies come into our warehouse, that every single supply is within expiration. meaning that we will not accept anything that is less than a year from expiration, because what that means is that when we sort through the inventory that comes in, like I said earlier, making sure that 22 gauge needles go with 22 gauge needles, 3cc syringes together, 10cc sutures together, and making sure that when we actually sort through, pack them into boxes, inventory, and get everything onto those labels, that they're going to have to go into our stacks for us to then pull for a physician or a doctor abroad. And making sure that when we're sending something, it's 30,000 pounds. They're not going to be able to, the whole clinic is not going to be able to use that immediately. So making sure that the time spent on the inventory shelf, then being stored, then being packed, then being shipped, and then onto the shelves in the hospital, that they're going to have enough duration of time to use these supplies. So we make sure that everything's within expiration, everything's sterile, and like items are with like items, rather than just having a box full of miscellaneous medical supplies. It doesn't help anybody because they don't know what they're getting. So we need to make sure that that's all very organized.
Okay. Excuse me while we go to break. When we come back, we'll talk more about Afya when we return in a moment. Stay tuned.
I'm Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. BronxNet has trained and provided access to technology for thousands of Bronxites and college students in media production while sharing local programs and important community information by and for Bronxites. We know that the entertainment and media industries are growing here in New York City, and BronxNet helps Bronxites get their career start while producing award-winning local programs. We also know that Cablevision has done extremely well right here in our borough. However, we need Cablevision to be a better corporate citizen by providing BronxNet with the capital and operating funds that it needs so that they can continue to provide quality community access television that Bronxites deserve. So join me, Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., and show your support for BronxNet by going to bronxnet.org and filling out a petition so that we can let Cablevision know how important BronxNet is to us and to the Bronx. Thank you.
There is also a very attractive extended warranty option that includes free service and parts for the next 5 years. But there's no need for you to get that. You failed to get the test you needed at the doctor that would have detected disease early enough where it could have been treated. So you won't be around in 2 years to see him grow up, which means the warranty would be useless. Okay, sign here, please.
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Now let's talk more about Afya, an organization that focuses on giving back medical supplies that other countries need. Let's get back to the conversation. Thanks again. Who helps you? What types of volunteers come in and help?
So one of the beauties of Afya is we have occupational therapy graduate students from Columbia and New York University with us for most of the time. And what they do is work with different populations that want to volunteer that often don't have a chance to do so. So we have volunteers every morning coming in from programs with developmental disabilities. We have people coming in with chronic mental illness. We have kids coming in with Asperger's and autism. We have young adolescents who have been put in residential facilities because of terrible abuse histories. And they come and they get their hands on the stuff and they organize it and count it and know that every box of sutures that they create is going to save someone's life abroad and that their life is going to impact someone else's. And I think this group of people give back in the most extraordinary way I have ever seen. They are, our volunteers from these programs are reliable, we can count on them, they come in with a smile, and they are incredibly hardworking and loving. So we love our morning volunteers. And then in the afternoons, we have a ton of people coming in. High school, college kids, people just walk in. It is literally a do-good drop-in center. So right now, we have volunteers walking in and taking on airlifts for Japan and helping us to organize the airlift materials for Japan. And we have
Where
others.
does it get shipped? Like the post office or UPS or what?
Oh no, those are getting driven to JFK to get on air cargo flights for Japan. But all the other sorting that all these amazing volunteers do, high school, college kids, everyone who walks in the door, ends up being packed on these 40-foot sea freight containers and ending up in a destination that needs them. We have spared over 3 million pounds from landfill and waste incineration since we started this organization.
Mm-hmm. What happens if an individual person, let's say myself, wants to go into, let's just say, Dwayne Reed or a pharmaceutical place, spend a little bit of money, and give you guys a box of medical supplies?
So that's a really good question. So I would say to you,
is that good?
I would say to you, no, because what we're trying to do is repurpose. I'd rather have you go into your medicine cabinet or your first aid kit and find the Band-Aids and the gauze that you're not using and give those to us. We don't want to create more product, more purchasing a product. I would rather reinvent what's already out there and give it an additional life and an additional set of years. So families could have fleece blankets from their kids being very young for 1 million years. The kids are now out of the house and you've got a closet full of fleece blankets. We want those fleece blankets.
Or
That's
sheets.
an example. Exactly. Linens, anything like that. I don't want people to go out and buy something new. We want them to collect what already exists.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what? So you take the IV poles, you take everything else imaginable. Why don't you take food? Is there a particular? Because I know that there's Feed the Children and there's other organizations that do.
This is yours.
Why don't you take food?
Well, in terms of when we're shipping to different countries, I mean, just as an example, we're shipping now to Japan. The rules and regulations of each country vary to a great degree. And in order for us to make sure that the containers that we're packing and shipping from our warehouse get to the port and make sure that once the container's in the port, that it's then cleared, customs and duties free, and then delivered to the site, we have to make sure that because we are a medical supply recovery organization shipping to another medical entity, that everything within the container can fall under the guise of medical. I mean, you can always, you know, make it a little bit different, but everything has to be, I mean, an exam table is an exam table, an IV pole is an IV pole, food is food. So in the way that we can help the hospitals and we're the most efficient in doing that, we need to make sure that everything within our warehouse isn't contaminated by food or by other products that are not along the same medical supplies.
And other people do a really good job with food. We don't need to get involved with food. I mean, and one of our favorite stories was right after the Haiti earthquake, people were bringing us boxes of Duncan Hines cake mix. Well, people didn't have a stove and they didn't have pots and pans. So food becomes a very amorphous concept for us in terms of collecting and making sure. Literally, we had some garlic and potatoes, and this is not the work that we want to be involved in. We want to really focus on the humanitarian supplies and the medical supplies needed for people to heal and get better.
Now, understand, from medicinal, just going to ask a question. Medicine, okay, sometimes has to be cooked. Or I wouldn't say cooked, but heated.
Yeah, Larry, we don't do medicine either.
You don't do, oh, okay. So you
The only thing that we'll do is over the counter, so we'll do like Tylenol, aspirin, but we won't do anything that requires a prescription.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Again, there are others who do it. So our goal is to really focus on what's the niche that we could really help in. There are organizations that do an amazing job with food. There are organizations that do an amazing job with just the pharmaceuticals. Ours is like everything else in the middle that's so hard to come by.
Is there anything that you would like to say about your organization that really, how can people help now?
Yeah.
Why is it important to have those medical supplies? I mean, this is a call for help, basically.
Yeah, I think last summer our team went to northern Tanzania to do a massive needs assessment in the north of this country. And we watched a woman have a traumatic and emergent C-section with no anesthesia machine running, with her wide awake. She barely had spinal block in the anesthetic, and we saw her wringing the nurse's shirt as she was awake through the whole thing. And that was catastrophic to bear witness to, especially when in our warehouse We have 5 anesthesia machines. We have numerous supplies needed to anesthetize her and put her out, and there's no reason for this. So that being said, this stuff can save people's lives. And if we have it and it's going into the garbage, there's no reason why we shouldn't be grabbing it out before it hits the garbage and moving it to a place that could benefit from it tremendously and change families' lives and give them a chance to live. So what can people do? One is, if people have connections to hospitals, they can connect us to those hospitals. We're already very involved in most of the greater New York hospitals, but we are growing and we are collecting outside of the New York area now as well. We're collecting from Philly, we're collecting from Florida, we're collecting from California. We are anxious to make those connections happen and to bring them to life. 2 is, we are always looking for schools to take on collecting some of the humanitarian products that we need. We've got schools in New York City right now collecting radios and flashlights and batteries for Japan. We always have lists of the products that we're looking to collect on our website and encourage people to get involved in just collecting the ancillary products that are needed. And we need funding to ship. Finally, we need funding to keep this program alive and growing. So anyone that ever wants to do any kind of funding event, a dance-a-thon, a bake sale, a dinner, someone who just had a beautiful event for us in Philadelphia to bring our work to Philadelphia and to fundraise for us, we would love, because the more help we get to keep this out of the garbage and to get it where it's needed, the more successful we are at saving people's lives.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank you for joining me on this edition of Special People, Special Issues. When we come back, we'll have the SPSI bulletin board when we return in a moment. Stay tuned.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people. Connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!
Did you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yup.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes.
The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster.
Now let's turn to the SPSI bulletin board. It contains information on the organizations featured on today's show. For more information on Afya, you can reach Danielle Butin, MPHOTR, founder and executive director, 140 Sawmill River Road, Yonkers, New York, 10701. 914-920-5081. That number once again is 914-920-5081. Or you can go to www.afyafoundation.org. Well, that wraps up this edition of Special People, Special Issues. Again, stay special. I'm Lawrence Seiler, and see you next time.